All right, we are recording. We're going to go ahead and get started here with our chat about sugar and sweets. So, welcome to the Stay Healthy Challenge mini nutrition seminar on sugar and sweets. Today, I'm going to talk a little bit about some facts about sugar consumption. We're going to review some of the most common sources of hidden sugar in our diets, and we're going to talk about some healthier options for sweet treats, which I know if you're like me, you're looking for something that you can eat that's sweet in your diet. So I'm going to go ahead and get started here. So most people don't know when they're addicted to sugar. Did you know, however, that sugar is 8 times more addicting than cocaine? Once sugar is consumed, it hits those same trigger points in the brain, which makes you want more, and then you start having these cravings. You also, I don't know if you've ever experienced this, when you cut sugar out of your diet, you get those withdrawal symptoms, right? We have these cravings for sugar constantly when we stop having it. I think most of us would also be really surprised to find out how much sugar is actually in the foods and drinks that we consume on a daily basis. 4 grams of sugar is equal to 1 teaspoon. So if we're looking at a 12-ounce regular soda as our example, we're going to put this into perspective. So on average, in a 12-ounce regular soda, there are 64 grams of sugar. So that's 16 teaspoons of sugar in a 12-ounce regular soda, right? So if you think about that, is a ton of sugar. So according to the American Heart Association, it's recommended, our sugar intake, that women consume no more than 6 teaspoons or 25 total grams of added sugar per day, and men consume no more than 9 teaspoons or 36 grams of sugar per day. So if you think about your 1 12-ounce soda, that is way over our recommended sugar intake for the day. So a lot of studies out there show that a higher consumption of sugar is associated with inflammation in the body and also associated with a number of chronic diseases. So we've talked about this before. The cells in our body need sugar or glucose for energy, but many diseases are directly linked to excessive sugar consumption, such as diabetes and certain types of cancer. Obesity is also strongly correlated with sugar consumption and can account for at least 13 different types of cancer, including breast cancer, liver cancer, and colon cancer. So reading food labels is one of the best ways to monitor how much sugar you're actually consuming during the day. Sugar in processed foods can be disguised as many other names, such as high fructose corn syrup, which I'm sure you've heard a lot before, molasses, and even fruit juice concentrate is going to be sugar. So we've talked a lot with the Stay Healthy Challenge and also just a lot of nutrition talks in general about the benefits of eating whole foods. So while we recommend whole foods, most of the time there are some good quality packaged food options available, but it's really important that you know how to read the food label and know what's actually in your food. So we're looking at our nutrition facts label, which are on our packaged foods. You can start by taking a look at the sugar content, and that's going to be highlighted here in red. There are natural sources of sugar, such as milk and fruit. Fruit's obviously going to have sugar in it, but there are also added sugars. So as I mentioned before, we talked about the American Heart Association recommendations. No more than 25 grams of added sugar for women and 36 for men per day. The label is going to make it really easy to identify how much sugar is natural sugar and how much sugar is added sugar. So you can see in the red circle, it says 10 grams of added sugars. So that's additional to the natural sugars that are already in that food. So we want to make sure that we read the nutrition facts label and the ingredients label to know exactly what we're putting in our body. And once you start looking, you actually might be surprised by what you find. When we look at the ingredients list, typically the first thing listed is going to be the most abundant ingredient in that food product. So it's usually the highest amount of that ingredient is going to be in that food. Be mindful about what you're consuming. Read your nutrition facts labels and definitely try to limit your daily consumption of sugar. And I challenge you to take a look at some of the foods that you have in your refrigerator and in your pantry and see how much of this hidden sugar that you can find in the foods that you're eating now. All right, so our top 3 foods with hidden sugar. We talked about sugar being disguised. It can hide in different types of food without us being aware of it. So we're going to talk about the 3 common foods that have hidden sugar. And this is going to be mainly our breakfast foods. So I know breakfast is tough for a lot of us because we're on the go, we're getting out of the house, we want to grab something really convenient to take with us. So our convenient breakfast foods such as oatmeal packets, Pop-Tarts, certain yogurts, cereals are going to have a lot of added sugar and higher sugar content. So if we think about some of our single serve oatmeal packets, especially if you get the flavored oatmeal packets, they can have 11 to 15 grams of sugar per packet. And sugar is going to be pretty high up there on the most prominent ingredient in that oatmeal. Pop-Tarts, we talk about Pop-Tarts. One package of 2 Pop-Tarts has 30 grams of sugar. And out of that 30 grams, 29 grams is added sugar. So they're adding all that sugar into those Pop-Tarts. The yogurts, there's different kinds of yogurts. The one on this here, the example is the Trix Cotton Candy Yogurt, 14 grams of sugar per serving. We talk about our popular breakfast cereals. On average, you're going to have about 10 grams per 3/4 of a cup of cereal. So while these breakfast options might be an easy choice if you don't have a lot of time, they're definitely loaded with a lot of sugar. Protein bars are going to be another food item that tends to have a lot of sugar in it as well. If we look at some protein bars, 19.5 grams of sugar compared to what we would find in a Krispy Kreme donut, which is 12.6 grams of sugar. So depending on the protein bar that you're looking at, it could potentially have more sugar than a donut, right? So we want to be very careful and read our food labels. Because most protein bars are marketed as an easy way to add protein into your diet, we still want to make sure that we're reading that nutrition label. This is a big one, the flavored creamers. I know this is one that we've all been talking about recently, is the flavored coffee creamers that we're adding into our coffee in the morning or throughout the day. 6 grams of sugar per tablespoon. So if you're just pouring coffee in, pouring that coffee creamer into your coffee, you're not measuring it, that's going to add up really, really quick. And if you're having multiple cups of coffee a day, same thing, you're going to add a ton of extra sugar into your diet. So these kinds of coffee creamers, yes, they might taste really delicious because they are full of sugar. It's going to add a lot of sugar into our daily intake. So be aware of that when we're making our food choices for those. So we have some alternatives that we can use in the kitchen. A lot of sugars are going to be marketed as healthier. They are all containing glucose, which to a certain extent will cause some inflammatory responses in the body. So we think about our normal sugars that we're going to use in the kitchen would be honey, maple syrup, agave. All of those are going to have sugar in them. So 3 sugar substitutes that we can use in the kitchen that are going to help sweeten your food without providing a ton of extra sugar. Number 1 would be cinnamon. So cinnamon actually hits the same taste buds as sugar without adding any sugar into your food. Some things that you can try with that is to add it to your protein pancakes. For me, I like to add it to my oatmeal in the morning. So my old-fashioned oats, I'll put some cinnamon in there with my almond milk. Muffins, you can even put it in your coffee if you want to add a little cinnamon flavor into your coffee. Another one would be shredded coconut. When you're picking your shredded coconut, you want to make sure that it is the unsweetened shredded coconut, and this is a great addition to add into if you've made the energy balls from the HSN website. you can add those in there. You can also sprinkle them on your oatmeal as well to add in a little bit of fat. Fruit puree, the no sugar added, also helps with baking. So instead of some higher sugars, you can use like an unsweetened applesauce as something that's going to help keep your baked goods moist as you're baking. So three good options to switch out when you're doing some work in the kitchen. If you are like me and you have a sweet tooth, here are some really good options for some healthy treats. Number one would be fresh fruit. You can also do frozen fruit. I know frozen blueberries are really popular. Dehydrated fruit, just be aware of eating too much of the dehydrated fruit because that can pack on a lot of sugar as well. If you haven't heard of banana nice cream, you should definitely Google it. You basically take a frozen banana and blend it with some like non-dairy milk, and you can create like a banana ice cream essentially. And then you can add stuff to it as well. So that's a good option as well. Banana has some sugars in there as well, natural sugars. Low sugar Greek yogurt with chocolate chips or granola. I know for me, when I'm craving something sweet, I'll do the 000 yogurt with some granola in there as well. If you're craving some cinnamon or some nuts, roasted nuts with cinnamon and cayenne, you can add a little pepper to those. We'll give them a little heat. Chia pudding topped with fruit, homemade smoothies. Definitely recommend homemade smoothies over commercial smoothies because they tend to add a lot of sugar in when you buy them already made or they make them fresh. Some other resources that you can use, HSN, our Healthy Steps Nutrition website, has some great treat recipes on the website. I actually made some for the beginning of the Member Appreciation Week. I made the chocolate chip protein pancakes. Those ones are pretty good, pretty easy to make. Casein pudding, if you haven't made that before, we sell the casein protein powder here at the gym. Mix it with some almond milk and makes a little pudding. You can add some raspberries to it. It's a really good treat as well. It also helps you get in some good protein, which the casein protein is slow digesting, so it's great to take right before bed. So it kind of gets you ready and recovered overnight. They also have a recipe for dark chocolate avocado truffles. There's mini baked apple crumbles, protein packed cookie dough bites. The HSN website has a ton of really great sweet treat recipes if that's something that you are craving. So definitely try those first rather than just going to the store and getting some cookies. All right, so remember, sugar can be hiding in a lot of our favorite foods, and too much sugar can lead to chronic disease and inflammation. We want to try to stick with whole foods, and if we do have something that is packaged, we want to make sure that we're reading the nutrition facts label. Keep an eye out for those convenient breakfast foods, the protein bars when you're trying to pick a protein bar, and definitely the flavored creamers. I know something I suggested on there that we tried at the gym was the nut pods is a good alternative as well, low calorie creamer. Sugar can be very addicting, and that addiction is very hard to break. So we want to try to use some alternative sugar options and try to minimize the added sugar that we're adding into our diet. You can still enjoy healthy treats without all those added sugars. So that is our presentation for today, talking about sweet treats, and I'm going to open it up if y'all have any questions.